Welcome back to Sika Strength. Welcome back to Sika Stan. My name is Dara. I'm one half of Sika Strength. At Sika Strength, you probably know us for these kind of informational videos, whether it be on YouTube like you're watching now or on Instagram, where we break down people's training. We might talk about training strategies. We might talk about speed, strength, power development, whatever it is. Now, our main job is obviously training athletes, whether that be people working one-on-one with us or people working on the app or on the PDF programs. It's helping people to get bigger, stronger, faster, fitter, better at their sport, generally speaking. Now today, we've got a bit of a special one for you. So this is breaking down somebody's off-season, an incredibly expedited off-season, and this is in the world of professional rugby. So this was 5 weeks, total amount of off-season they get per year, 5 weeks. And this is bringing someone's bench press as big as possible, their back squat as big as possible, and then some front squat stuff as well, right? Now, in this case, to talk to you about numbers and what numbers we wanted to see, this person had bench press 170 a number of years ago. Their bench press was nowhere near 170 now. I would have estimated kind of 150 to mid 150s if we had tested at the start. Back squat, 1RM a couple of years ago, 220. I think around 2020 it was around 220, but I could be wrong on that. And then it front squatted 200 kilos in the past. So coming in after a full season of pro rugby, they're in for a full season of pro rugby again this year. They basically need to demonstrate as much strength as possible. So front row player, big, strong dude, very, very good. Obviously you can see the numbers are quite big, but they need to be demonstrating maximal strength numbers as high as possible. It needs to be coming in on day one of preseason with a fucking statement being made. Now, what do the 5 sessions look like? Well, so firstly, 5 sessions per week. Some weeks it worked out at 6 sessions, but 5 sessions per week, right? You might think this is strange giving away training programs. You can see every training program we write is on the Sika Strength app, and you could try it for free during a 7-day free trial. So all of this stuff is out there anyway. Obviously, these are custom written programs, but I think you guys would gain some value from this for looking at how a pro player will train. So day one, back squat, bench press, then a superset of bird dogs and hanging knee raises, and then a superset of seated shoulder press and seated loo raises. Day 2, RDLs from low blocks, seal rows. Then a superset of weighted plank and side plank leg raises, and a superset of face pulls and lat pull downs. Day 3, pause front squats and bench press. Then superset of GHD back extension and single arm cheetah rows. Then we had a superset of front foot raise split squats and hamstring Nordics. Day 4, front rack reverse lunges, pendlay rows. Superset of push press and standing skull crushers. Superset of Palov press and Russian twists. Day 5, back squat, bench press, quad Nordics, and then a superset of hammer curls and ring rows. Now, the first thing I think you'll notice here is just how standard this looks. And this is always something we get. We might send somebody an example of programming we've given for pro athletes before, and you think there's going to be something drastically different here. There really isn't. The main defining factor between pro athletes and standard athletes is how quickly they can progress and how well they'll stick to training programs. So consistency of training and how hard they'll push themselves is the main defining factor. That's the main difference we see. Now, the second thing you might see is just how much midline work there is here and anti-rotation work. That's down to just how much balance and midline is demanded in order to be a front row rugby player. A lot of the time people will see front rows and they'll just see these giant colossal dudes. Probably the best balance you're going to get across most of the, at least field sports played in Ireland, you're going to get from front row rugby players who are 120 kilos plus. It's just crazy how attuned they are and how well they can maintain positions. So let's look at the back squats first. So the back squats, we're saying we're going to do twice per week. Depending on some weeks, you got an extra session in, so it might have been kind of 2.5 times per week over the course of the 4 or 5 weeks of training. And this is super standard, right? Starting off with 4 sets of 10, 5 sets of 8, then 4 sets of 10, 5 sets of 6. Very, very standard. And what I want you to look at first here is how low those starting numbers are. 140 kilos for 10s, 130 kilos for 8s. Very, very easy sessions, right? Now, this is a very short off season. we need to get somebody squatting heavier weights than ideally they've ever squatted before in their entire life. But it's absolutely vital we don't start off week one with something that's exceedingly heavy and then failing sessions, and now suddenly we've messed up a whole week of that 4 or 5 weeks we've got him for the off season. Now, in this case, when he went in, they went and started testing box squats. So sets of 3 on box squat, very comfortably hitting 250 for 3 on back squats. Felt like absolute piss. So really easy 250s for 3. What I want to emphasize on this point is that when you've expedited periods of training and you're not going to be able to do that normal curve and normal progression and drop it down over the course of 8 weeks, it's very important we keep volume up there the entire time. So there's no point in you doing an off season where you start going 5s, 3s, 2s, 1s in your 4 weeks. You need to be really keeping that hard working volume in there to get that valuable work done, or else you're really not going to get anything of use done during that really fast off season. Now, bench press up next. I'm going to do bench press and make that the kind of main thing today, because I think the bench press numbers were obviously insane, right? So box squatting 250 for a triple after never really squatting those numbers too easily before. That's obviously great. That's class, considering we started the off season squatting 140 for 10. In this case, we're starting the off season doing 105 for 10. So 4 sets of 10 at 105. And the ending value, just to let you know here, is 5 reps at 165. And then not going any heavier, but felt like he could definitely have gone heavier. So week 1. We've got 10s, 6s, 6s. What I want you to notice here, it's 4 sets of 10, then 6 sets of 6, then 4 sets of 6. And what this allows you to do is starting at 105 kilos. We can go from 105 to 115 to 122.5 kilos in the course of a week. If we keep these sets constant over the course of a week and do 5 by 5, 5 by 5, 5 by 5, you're not going to be able to make that same aggression or that same slope of the line with your increase in intensity. Week 2, 5 sets of 8, 6 sets of 6, 4 sets of 8. So same thing, manipulating that total working volume, manipulating the amount of sets per rep and sets per session. We go 130, 135, 137.5. Then week 3, 4 sets of 6, 4 sets of 4, 4 sets of 8. So we go 140, 150, and then 142.5. And this 4 sets of 8 session is a bit of a pivotal session. This is one of the bigger ones. This is a time to really push yourself quite hard. Then week 4, 4 sets of 6, 5 sets of 3, 6 sets of 6. So 4 sets of 6 at 145.5. Quite easy. He's just done it for sets of 8, 2.5 kilos less a couple of days beforehand. 5 sets of 3 at 155, 6 sets of 6 at 150. Then 2 4s at 160, 3 2s at 165, and a set of 5 at 165. Bench press, I absolutely wish he'd gotten to test a bench press, because I definitely think you're up to 185 at this point. Definitely. Without a shadow of a doubt, I think we would have surpassed 185. Then front squats. Front squats were just once per week in there as an addition to those back squats. So 5s at 140, 6 3s at 155, 5 5s at 155, 5 3s at 170, 4 4s at 175. Very, very clear progression. Now, obviously, some of these numbers are very aggressive. I think these levels of progression are very aggressive compared to what normal people would do. But what I want you to look at is, look at this firstly in the simplicity of the training sessions. There's nothing crazy here. He's not doing anything absolutely mental. Every week it was around 5 sessions in the gym. It's not living your entire life in the gym. Each of these gym sessions is around 2 hours long. Now, the second thing I want you to really pay attention to is the importance of volume, and more importantly than that, the manipulation of that volume over the course of this incredibly fast 4 or 5 weeks. When we only have 4 or 5 weeks of training, we always see it every single time. People will buy an off-season block and they'll say, I only have 4 weeks to do it, so I'm going to start and just do the last 4 weeks of the program. The volume is the important thing. The higher rep work is the important thing. You have to be doing it in order to get the value out of the training block. Now, I spoke as well about the manipulation of that volume. That manipulation, changing the amount of sets we have to do, altering that from doing 3 sets of 5 the week before to doing 5 sets of 5 for this session makes such a difference to the total amount of work you're doing, and it doesn't really make that much of a difference to how difficult that session is. If you can do 3 by 5, you can probably do 5 by 5. If you can do 3 sets of 10, you can probably do 5 sets of 10. Yet we've suddenly increased our total working capacity there by around 40%, or the amount of work you're doing. We've increased that massively. So don't forget about manipulating the amount of sets you're doing per session. Don't forget about that as in you've done 4 sets, you should have done 6. Don't just leave the gym now because you've done most of it. You haven't. The total amount of working volume you do per session is incredibly important. Now, the last thing I want you to do is something I've mentioned at the start of this, and this is just the simplicity of training sessions. There's no reason to go through this and in the course of 4 or 5 weeks of training start massively altering how sessions are. Maybe we changed around and we tweaked around a few of those exercise selections depending on equipment availability and depending on what gym he was in. We also manipulated certain sessions to make them a small bit longer and other ones slightly shorter, just to make the layout of the week a bit easier. But you don't need to make anything overly complicated. You can make massive progress in very short times by just pushing it very, very hard and making sure everything is in place there to allow you to do it. If you have questions about any of this, or if you'd like any more information, please let us know in the comments down below or send us an email to sikastrength@gmail.com. As I've already mentioned, you can check out our training programs on the Sika Strength app. It's on iOS and Android. You can download it, use it as a 7-day free trial, just delete before the end and you won't be charged. Thank you so much for tuning in.